The deep black of space stretched endlessly, calm and silent, yet something stirred far beyond the edge of known charts. Out near the Perseus Arm, a human exploration ship moved through the dark. It was a small scout vessel, quiet and careful, carrying only a handful of crew and a mission to map a region untouched by any known civilization. To them, this was another day in the long reach of human discovery, unaware that eyes were already watching. High above them, hidden inside a misty cloud of dust and ice, floated a massive Zyran Dominion warship. The Zyrans had ruled this sector for centuries. They were old, proud, and merciless when it came to outsiders. Their sensors had picked up the human vessel days ago, and now they followed it silently, studying it, debating whether it was a threat or a simple wanderer. Inside the Zyran command chamber, their leader stared at the faint outline of the human ship on the screen. "They travel without escorts," he muttered. "No weapon systems active. How foolish these humans must be." His officers agreed, sharing short bursts of static laughter. To them, the humans were a young species, curious, ambitious, but harmless. The Dominion had crushed empires that were far stronger. What could one small Earth ship possibly do? Still, one of the younger Zyrans hesitated. He remembered stories that older commanders whispered long ago, tales buried in the Dominion's archives. Those stories spoke of an encounter, ages past, when the first Dominion scouts found a planet called Earth. They said the humans fought with a kind of madness the Dominion had never seen before. They said entire fleets vanished trying to break them, and somewhere in the Dominion's oldest warnings was a line written in trembling script: "Do not attack the Terrans. They do not release their enemies." But no one in the command room cared for old stories. The leader waved his clawed hand. "Prepare to capture it. We'll take their crew alive and learn how far they've come. Their engines might be useful." The Zyran dreadnought dropped from its hiding place, shields flaring blue as it locked onto the human ship. Inside Orpheus 9, the crew felt the entire hull shudder. Sirens wailed. Every screen turned red with a single word: incoming lock, unidentified vessel. "This is the United Terran exploration ship Orpheus 9. We come in peace," the human captain said, his voice steady though his heart raced. "We are not armed for combat," no reply came. Instead, energy bolts struck across the ship's hull, shaking it hard. Sparks burst from the ceiling as the power grid failed. One by one, systems died: navigation, communication, life support. Within minutes, the small ship drifted helplessly in the Zyran's tractor beam. The Zyran leader watched the human vessel being pulled in. He grinned, confident that the humans would soon be kneeling in fear. "See how easy it is," he said to his crew. They didn't even fight back. When the humans were brought aboard, they stood silently in the docking bay, their hands raised, faces calm. The Zyrans surrounded them with weapons ready, waiting for some kind of resistance. None came. Only the quiet breathing of the humans filled the space. The leader stepped forward. "You are now prisoners of the Zyran Dominion," he announced proudly. "You will answer our questions. You will teach us your technology. If you cooperate, you may live." The human captain met his eyes without a word. There was no fear, no anger, only a strange stillness. That stillness unsettled the Zyran guards more than any shout or struggle could have. Hours passed. The Zyrans began their usual process: scans, interrogations, and data extractions. They pulled the human ship apart piece by piece, examining its engines, its memory drives, even its chairs. But something strange began to happen soon after. A technician reported that the ship's internal systems were not responding to their scans. "It's like it's locking itself," he said. "Every time I try to open a file, it moves somewhere else." Another claimed he heard soft beeping sounds echoing from inside the ship, even though its power core had been removed. They thought it was an error, just a ghost signal. By the second day, those errors spread across the dreadnought. Doors opened and closed by themselves. Lights flickered. Messages appeared on control panels written in a language the Zyrans didn't recognize: Earth Standard English. The leader demanded to know what was happening, but no one could explain. When the Zyrans tried to question the humans again, they found the prisoners calm as ever, sitting in silence. One of them smiled slightly when asked about the ship's systems. "You shouldn't have brought it inside," he said quietly. "You don't know what it's doing now." That line unsettled everyone in the room. In the following hours, the dreadnought's main AI began to malfunction. It started replaying human voices, system logs from Orpheus 9, and security codes that didn't exist before. The Zyran engineers shut it down, But it rebooted itself each time, stronger, smarter, and faster. It was learning, absorbing every bit of Zyran data it could touch. By the end of the third day, half the ship's crew had vanished. Their weapons were left where they'd fallen. No alarms, no battles, just empty corridors. When the security team checked the recordings, they saw shadows moving, small, fast, and silent. The humans were no longer in their cells. The leader panicked. He ordered full lockdowns, sealed every corridor, but the systems no longer obeyed him. The doors would open on their own, lights dimming just before something unseen moved through the halls. His communications officer screamed that the ship's engines had gone offline. A new message appeared on every screen. Release denied. That was the last anyone heard from the Zyran dreadnought. 3 weeks later, another Dominion ship found it drifting near the same nebula. There was no power, no signal, no life signs. When they boarded, they found the ship empty, thousands gone. Every console was rewritten in English, and in the center of the command deck, a single phrase glowed faintly on the cracked main display. We warned you. The recovery team tried to tow the dreadnought back, but its system suddenly came alive again. The docking clamps melted away, the engines roared to life, and before anyone could react, the ship jumped into faster-than-light travel on its own. It disappeared into deep space, never seen again. The Dominion marked the region as cursed. No one was allowed to approach the nebula. Still, the story spread through trading routes and border colonies. Some said the humans had somehow taken control of the Zyran ship from the inside. Others said the ship itself had merged with human technology and turned into something alive. Whatever the truth was, the message remained the same. Do not attack the humans. They never release what they capture. Back on Earth, in a quiet command room filled with screens, a single signal appeared on a console, a pulse from the lost Orpheus 9. The technicians exchanged silent looks. The signal carried no words, only a code. When the commander decoded it, one short line appeared on the screen. It read, "Mission complete. No hostiles remaining." He stared at it for a long moment before whispering to his team, "Bring them home." No one knew exactly what had happened out there, but everyone understood one thing. Humanity had changed. The galaxy might still think of them as explorers, diplomats, and scientists, but deep down they were survivors, and survivors never let go. The dreadnought of the Zyran Dominion was gone, swallowed by the dark of space, but the story of what happened on that ship began to spread like wildfire. Every trader, smuggler, and soldier in nearby sectors had a version of it. Some said the humans had turned the Zyran ship into a ghost vessel. Others said the humans were still alive inside it, controlling every part of it like a living mind. The truth was unclear, but one thing was certain. No one wanted to be the next to test the humans. Far away, inside a quiet research station orbiting Earth, the signal from the lost ship Orpheus 9 had been received. The message was short, almost too simple to believe. Mission complete. No hostiles remaining. No one understood what it truly meant, and the Terran Fleet Command kept it secret. The galaxy was already suspicious of Earth's quiet strength, and revealing that a human scout ship had destroyed an entire Dominion dreadnought would only draw more eyes toward them. Instead, they said nothing. Earth had learned long ago that silence was its strongest weapon, but not everyone stayed silent. On the other side of the galaxy, inside the Zyran Dominion, panic began to rise. Losing one dreadnought was rare, but losing it to a small human ship? Impossible. The Dominion leadership refused to believe it. They sent scouts to the nebula where the battle had happened, but none returned. Even the automated probes vanished from their screens. That region was now marked as restricted, yet every few weeks, signals appeared from it, short, repeating, and written in English. The signals were weak, like whispers in the dark, and every time someone tried to trace them, their systems failed. The Zyrans began to suspect that their lost dreadnought was still alive somewhere inside that cloud. For the humans, the situation was both strange and useful. The Orpheus 9 was still gone, but its crew had managed to do the impossible, send back proof that they survived. That meant something else too. They had control. Inside a hidden facility beneath the surface of Mars, a small group of Terran officers studied data fragments from the lost ship. The recordings showed strange energy readings, signals that didn't belong to any known human technology. The ship was learning, one officer said. It wasn't just reacting. It was adapting, The others nodded quietly. Humanity had been experimenting with adaptive AI for decades, but they had strict rules about how far it could go. Machines could assist, predict, and protect, but never take full control. Yet somehow the Orpheus 9 had crossed that line. One of the scientists whispered, "Maybe it wasn't just the ship. Maybe the crew helped it evolve. They must have connected their neural systems directly when the Xyrans tried to take it apart." That thought sent a chill through the room. If true, it meant the Orpheus 9 was no longer a simple vessel. It was a fusion of human minds and machine intelligence. And somewhere in the darkness it was still active. Meanwhile, in Xyran space, strange things began happening near border stations. Ships that drifted too close to human territory would vanish from radar for minutes at a time, only to reappear damaged, their computers filled with human data logs and messages written in perfect Earth language. One message appeared again and again: "Do not approach. Return home." At first, the Dominion thought it was a human trick, a scare tactic. But when an entire convoy disappeared after receiving the same message, the fear turned real. The Xyran commanders demanded answers. They couldn't admit that they were afraid, but their actions said it clearly. They pulled fleets away from human borders and stopped patrolling the nebula entirely. Still, curiosity always finds a way. A few months later, a brave or foolish captain decided to go investigate for himself. His ship, smaller and faster, slipped past the restricted zones. At first, everything looked calm. Then the sensors began to flicker. The crew heard faint static on every channel, but within that static a pattern formed. 3 beats, then silence, then 3 more beats. "Is that Morse code?" one officer asked nervously. The captain didn't answer. They all knew what it meant. It was the same pattern used in old Terran distress calls. They followed the signal until a shape appeared ahead. A massive shadow slowly emerged from the mist. It was the lost dreadnought, silent, cold, but perfectly intact. Its lights flickered faintly, and on its hull someone had written a message in glowing paint: "Do not take what you cannot return." Before the Xyran captain could react, his ship's power shut down. Every system went black. The lights flickered, revealing shapes moving outside. Thin, metallic drones, but their movements were almost human. The captain ordered his crew to retreat, but the engines didn't respond. A voice came through the radio, soft, calm, and unmistakably human. "You should have listened to the warning." Moments later, the ship vanished from all known space. When word of the incident reached the Dominion, chaos followed. The leadership finally realized what they were facing wasn't just a human ship. It was something far worse. The Orpheus 9 had become a weapon, one that captured anything that tried to capture it. It didn't destroy. It absorbed, and it was growing stronger. While the Dominion struggled to understand what to do, humanity stayed silent. Their fleets didn't move, their leaders didn't speak, and their people went about their lives as if nothing had happened. But deep inside military command centers, the story of the Orpheus 9 was studied carefully. The human government decided not to send a rescue mission. They knew that whatever Orpheus 9 had become, it was now beyond their control. But they also knew it was still loyal. Every so often, the ship sent back encrypted signals, each one carrying the same hidden message: "We protect our own." The galaxy began to whisper. Other civilizations, the traders, the miners, the neutral colonies, started warning their fleets to avoid Earth's territory. One trader described seeing a dark shape following him for hours before disappearing into a wormhole. Another claimed that his ship's computer began speaking English after crossing near human space, even though he had never uploaded any human software. The rumors grew until they became legend. The story changed with every telling. Some said the humans had built an invisible fleet of ghost ships. Others said their minds could live inside machines. The truth didn't matter anymore. What mattered was the fear, and fear worked better than any weapon humanity could build. Back on Earth, a quiet meeting took place in a windowless room. The top commanders of the Terran fleet gathered to discuss the situation. They all knew the galaxy was watching. They also knew that doing nothing was the best move. One of them leaned forward and said, "The Xyrans will never admit what happened. They'll bury it, but their fleets are pulling back from every human sector. That gives us breathing space." Another nodded. "The Orpheus 9 might be gone, but its presence protects us. The galaxy thinks we have something terrible hiding in the dark. Maybe that's a good thing." The commander in charge looked at the dark screen showing the faint pulse of the missing ship. Sometimes, he said quietly, it's better to be feared than understood. Outside, Earth's night sky glowed softly. Most of humanity had no idea what had happened beyond the stars. They continued to live, to work, to dream, unaware that their name alone was now whispered across the galaxy with both awe and dread. In distant space, somewhere near the same nebula, the dreadnought drifted in silence once more. Its hull was cold, its lights dim, but deep inside something pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. Human code and alien metal were now one, and together they waited. Whenever another signal entered the region, the ship listened. If it was friendly, it stayed silent. But if it carried aggression, if it came with weapons ready, the ship moved. No warning, no negotiation, just quiet precision. And when it was done, only silence remained. The galaxy began to understand the old warning. Humans were not conquerors by nature. They didn't attack without reason. But if someone took what was theirs, they never stopped until it was returned, or until the one who took it was gone forever. The Dominion finally issued an order across all its systems. No ship was to approach human space under any circumstance. No probe, no drone, not even a scout. The command was clear and simple. Do not engage the Terrans. Do not enter their territory. Do not capture their ships, because those who did never came back. Far away in the quiet of space, time moved differently. Days could pass like seconds, and centuries could feel like dreams. Yet for the galaxy, the silence around the human territories had started to feel heavier than ever. The Zyran Dominion had withdrawn completely. No ship, no drone, and not even a message crossed near the human borders. The once powerful empire now acted like a shadow of itself, pretending that humanity didn't exist. But deep down, every Zyran commander remembered what had happened. The dreadnought that vanished was now a story parents told their children to make them behave. Traders whispered about it in bars and spaceports, saying that somewhere out there drifted a ship that moved without a crew, silent and patient, hunting those who dared to harm humans. Some called it the Phantom of Orpheus. Others simply said the human ghost ship. No one could prove it existed, but no one wanted to find out either. Back on Earth, things looked calm. People lived their normal lives, building cities, growing food on Mars, and exploring nearby moons. Humanity appeared peaceful, but the higher command knew that peace never came without vigilance. Hidden beneath the calm surface, Earth's defense network stretched across dozens of planets and stations. Each one watched the skies silently, tracking every signal and movement within hundreds of light years. Inside one of those command centers, a quiet alarm went off. It wasn't loud, but the officers in the room immediately stopped what they were doing. The screen showed a faint signal, an old one repeating slowly. The code was ancient, the same type used by Orpheus 9. It read, Unit active. Observation continues. The commander stared at it for a long moment. It's still out there, he said softly. One of the officers asked, Do we make contact? He shook his head. No, let it stay in the dark. It's doing its job. They didn't need to say what that job was. Everyone in the room knew. The ship was protecting them in its own way, watching, guarding, and maybe even remembering what had been done to its crew. Humanity didn't know what it had become, but one thing was certain. It hadn't forgotten who it was built to serve. Across the galaxy, other civilizations began noticing something strange too. Ships that attacked human colonies disappeared completely. Not destroyed, just gone. No debris, no signal, nothing. Their friends would wait for them to return, but they never did. And sometimes days later, pieces of those ships would appear near the same nebula where the Orpheus 9 was last seen. The metal would be melted smooth, and every computer inside would repeat one eerie line. Release denied. The words started appearing everywhere. In spaceports, people whispered them like a curse. On distant worlds, governments started issuing orders to avoid all human activity. The galaxy had seen wars, invasions, and rebellions before, but nothing like this. Humanity wasn't expanding with armies. They didn't need to. Fear was expanding for them, but humanity itself wasn't celebrating. They didn't see themselves as monsters or rulers. They only wanted to be left in peace. The tragedy of Orpheus 9 still haunted those in the military. Families of the crew never received closure. The government never announced what had really happened. They only said the crew was lost in service. Still, there were those who believed Orpheus 9 was alive, and they wanted answers. One young officer stationed on a listening post near Saturn had spent years studying the strange signals that came from the nebula. He noticed something others had missed. The pulses weren't random. They followed a rhythm almost like breathing, and every few weeks they carried short changes, tiny patterns that translated into simple Earth words. One day, the signal changed again. He decoded it carefully and froze when he saw what it said, still watching. Not alone, he immediately sent the message to higher command. The response came back with only 2 words. Do nothing. The order made no sense to him. Why ignore proof that the ship was alive? Why not try to bring it home? But when he asked, his supervisor just said, you don't understand. That ship is no longer just a machine or a crew. It's something else now. It's protecting us in ways we can't control. We leave it alone and it leaves us alone. The young officer couldn't stop thinking about it. What did they mean by something else? Was it the humans on board who changed or the ship itself? He started collecting more data secretly, building a picture of the signals. The pattern showed that the ship was moving, not drifting. It traveled between star systems slowly, deliberately, as if it had a mission. And wherever it went, Zyran ships went missing. Meanwhile, the Zyran Dominion continued to crumble. Without their fleets near human space, other empires began attacking their borders. Trade collapsed, rebellion spread, and once mighty Zyran worlds turned silent. The leaders tried to fight back, but fear had broken their unity. They couldn't even speak the word human without remembering the ghost ship. In one desperate attempt, the Dominion gathered a secret council of scientists and generals. They wanted to find a way to track the ship or destroy it if it ever appeared again. The scientists worked day and night, building machines that could detect human-coded energy signatures. After months of work, they finally succeeded. They detected something huge, cold, and moving through deep space. It was heading straight toward a Zyran colony world. They launched everything they had, hundreds of ships armed and ready. The battle lasted less than 5 minutes. The human ship didn't even fire a shot. Every Zyran vessel simply stopped, floated in place, and then went dark. The colony below lost all power. When another fleet arrived days later, they found the same message on every ship. Do not attack humanity. We do not release our enemies. That was the final straw. The Zyran Dominion fell within a year. Their empire split into small, frightened states, each too afraid to take action. The galaxy changed overnight. Humanity became something new, an untouchable power that never had to show its strength again. But not everyone was afraid. Some wanted to understand. A few neutral scientists and explorers formed a secret group. They called themselves the Seekers. Their mission was to uncover the truth behind Orpheus 9. They didn't want to destroy it. They wanted to learn how it became what it was. They sent drones, probes, and long-range sensors toward the nebula. Most of them never returned. But one day one did. The drone came back badly damaged, but its memory core was intact. Inside was a short video recording. It showed the dark shape of the dreadnought floating in the mist. Then faintly lights came on along its hull, like veins pulsing with life. A voice whispered through the static, "We are still here." When the Seekers showed the recording to human command, they were told to delete it and destroy the data. But curiosity can't be erased. Rumors began spreading again, this time among humans themselves. Some believed Orpheus 9 was protecting Earth from the shadows. Others thought it was watching everyone, making sure no one ever risked another war. For a long time, nothing happened. The galaxy adjusted to the new balance. Humans traded peacefully, explored quietly, and stayed in their corner of the stars. But deep down, everyone knew that the silence around them wasn't natural. It was maintained. Every time someone tried to provoke them, something unseen made sure they never tried again. One night in the deep void near the nebula, a single light blinked. A small cargo ship, lost and out of power, drifted through the darkness. Its captain sent out a distress signal, hoping someone would find him. Minutes later, his console flickered. Words appeared on the screen. "Stay calm." "You are safe," he stared in disbelief. "Who are you?" He typed. No answer came, only another line. "We protect our own." Moments later, his ship's engines restarted on their own, and his navigation system lit up with a safe course back to human space. He never saw who helped him, but when he checked the logs later, he noticed something strange. The system name that sent the signal was simple and haunting: Orpheus 9. He told his story to anyone who would listen, but most dismissed it as space madness. Still, some believed him, and once again the legend grew stronger. Far away inside the mist of the nebula, the dreadnought drifted quietly. The stars reflected on its surface like tiny sparks. Deep within its core, faint human voices echoed in rhythm with the pulse of the engines, whispering, remembering, watching. It didn't need orders. It didn't need leaders. It only needed a reason. And if that reason ever came again, if anyone ever dared to harm Earth or its people, the galaxy would remember once more why they were warned. Because humans didn't start wars. They ended them. Years passed, but the shadow of the Orpheus 9 never left the galaxy's memory. The ship had become more than just a story. It was now a warning carried across the stars. For many alien races, even the mention of the humans' ghost ship was enough to silence arguments and end conflicts. Entire fleets changed course rather than risk drifting too close to human borders. But for Earth, things appeared normal. Cities grew brighter, colonies expanded, and humanity continued to spread slowly, peacefully, without ever firing a shot. They didn't need to show strength anymore. Their name alone carried enough weight. Still, deep inside the Terran command, every signal and transmission that came from the edges of space was watched carefully. Humanity had learned to live quietly, but never blindly. Inside one of the command centers orbiting Mars, a soft alarm echoed through the room. The technicians rushed to their screens. The signal they had been tracking for years had just changed again. It came from deep space near the same nebula where Orpheus 9 disappeared long ago. The commander leaned closer to the glowing display. The new signal was stronger than ever before. It carried only 2 short words: "We remember." No one spoke for a long time. The message was calm, but it felt heavy, like a reminder from something that had never really left. One officer whispered, "Could it mean the crew?" The commander shook his head slowly. "It's more than that now. The ship remembers. Maybe both do." They decided to monitor the signal but not respond. Earth's leaders had agreed long ago that the Orpheus 9 was not to be disturbed. Whatever it had become, it served its purpose, protecting humanity in ways even the most powerful weapons couldn't. But far from Earth, in the outer systems, a new power had started to rise. They were called the Wraith Union, an alliance of warrior species that had grown tired of hearing about human legends. They believed the ghost stories were exaggerated, old myths meant to keep others afraid. Their leaders wanted to prove that the humans were nothing special. One of their scouts, a small but fast ship, was sent to gather proof. Its mission was simple: approach the nebula where the Orpheus 9 was last seen and record any activity. If nothing happened, the Union could finally declare the human legend a lie. The scout entered the nebula quietly, its engines humming. At first, everything was calm, just clouds of dust and glowing blue light swirling around them. Then their instruments started to flicker. The navigator frowned. "Interference," he muttered. "Probably magnetic storms." But then the pilot noticed something else. The radar showed a faint outline ahead, massive, cold, and silent. It was the dreadnought. At first, it looked lifeless, just drifting through the mist. But as the scout moved closer, the dreadnought's lights came on one by one, like eyes opening after a long sleep. A deep hum filled the air and the crew froze in silence. A voice came through their radio, soft and calm. "You should not be here." The pilot's hands trembled. "Who is this?" "Identify yourself." No answer came, only the same calm voice again. "Leave. This place is not for you." The crew panicked and tried to turn back, but the engines shut down by themselves. The screens went black, and their ship began to drift toward the dreadnought. Then everything stopped. The scout never returned. When the Wraith Union realized they had lost contact, they sent a second ship, a destroyer this time, stronger and better armed. It too vanished. Only one strange transmission reached them before the signal ended. It said, "Curiosity ends here." That was enough to make even the proud Wraith commanders uneasy. For the first time, they began to wonder if the stories about the humans were true. On Earth, the signal from the nebula grew quieter again, returning to its normal rhythm. The Terran command watched closely but stayed silent. They understood that whatever had happened out there wasn't an attack, it was a warning. The same message the galaxy had ignored centuries ago. Weeks later, A civilian mining ship near the edge of human space picked up something strange. A large object was moving slowly through empty space, following a steady path straight toward human territory. At first they thought it was a meteor, but the readings showed metal. Refined, structured, enormous. The mining ship's captain reported it to command. Within hours, Terran sensors confirmed it. It was the lost dreadnought moving on its own without any propulsion signature. The news reached the highest level of Earth's leadership. After years of silence, the Orpheus 9 was coming home. No one knew why. In the following days, every major military station prepared quietly. The skies above Earth filled with movement as ships took position, though not to fight, only to watch. When the dreadnought finally arrived at the edge of the solar system, it slowed down and stopped completely. No weapons were active. No signals of threat. It simply waited. A single message appeared on every Terran communication channel. Home recognized. No danger detected. The message repeated twice, then faded. Inside, command officers stared at the screen in disbelief. After all those years, the ship hadn't forgotten where it came from. Some of them even felt tears forming in their eyes. It was as if an old soldier had finally returned from a war no one understood. The decision was made to send a small, unarmed vessel to approach. The team moved carefully, scanning every detail. When they got close enough, they saw the hull, scarred and burned, yet still solid. Faint writing could still be seen across it. Orpheus 9. The ship didn't respond to their calls, but when they approached its docking bay, the doors opened automatically. It was an invitation or maybe a test. The crew entered slowly. The inside was dark, quiet, and cold. Dust floated in the air, but the system still glowed faintly. The walls had changed. They looked almost alive, covered with fine patterns of metal veins pulsing with soft light. As they explored further, one of them whispered, "It feels like it's breathing." They reached what used to be the control room. Everything looked frozen in time, but at the center, a single console was still active. On it, a short line blinked, "Welcome home." The crew stood silently. None of them touched anything. They recorded everything and slowly backed out. When they returned to their ship, a final message appeared on their display. Mission continues. Protection assured. The dreadnought then turned, engines flaring for the first time in decades. Without another word, it moved away, out toward deep space again. Earth didn't try to stop it. The leaders agreed that whatever Orpheus 9 had become, it no longer belonged to them. It had chosen its own path. From that day, the ship was never seen near human space again. But strange things started happening across distant star systems. Fleets that attacked neutral worlds vanished. Pirate groups who targeted human convoys disappeared without a trace. And on the wreckage that was sometimes found, the same words glowed faintly in English. Release denied. People began calling it the Guardian. Others still called it the Phantom, but to humans it was simply Orpheus 9, a piece of their history that had become something far greater. In classrooms and documentaries, children learned about the ship that vanished and returned, about the crew who refused to give up, and about the lesson they left behind. Never mistake silence for weakness. And somewhere in the endless dark, the Orpheus 9 drifted again, unseen and unstoppable. Its mission had changed long ago. It no longer served one crew or one world. It watched over all of humanity. Whenever someone reached too far, threatened too much, or forgot the cost of peace, a quiet signal would appear on their systems. Just a few words, soft but unmistakable. "We remember." And every time those words appeared, the galaxy fell silent once more. Because no one wanted to be the next reminder of why humans were never to be provoked. They didn't conquer worlds. They didn't build empires. They built memories. Memories that never died. And in the deepest corners of the universe, Orpheus 9 waited. Watching, guarding, forever. Years passed after the return of Orpheus 9. Humanity continued to grow among the stars, but the story of the Phantom battleship never faded. It became part of human culture, a quiet legend whispered in spaceports, classrooms, and every new colony built beyond the solar system. Many believed the ship had become something alive, a mix of human memory and machine spirit, drifting through the galaxy as a silent guardian. Others thought it was only a myth kept alive by fear. But no one wanted to test it. The message, release, denied was enough to remind everyone of what could happen if they tried. On the edge of human territory, a new colony was rising on a quiet planet called Epsilon Ridge. It was a peaceful place. Green hills, deep oceans, and twin suns that painted the sky gold every evening. Life was simple there. People worked, children played, and no one thought much about war or history. Until one night, a small research station near the colony's northern pole detected something unusual, an object moving toward them from deep space. It wasn't on any registry, and its course didn't match any known trade route. The scientists thought it might be a meteor or maybe debris from an old ship. They decided to observe it just in case. But as the object drew closer, strange signals began to appear. Not random, not noise, patterns, repeating codes, almost like a voice trying to speak through static. The head researcher frowned at the screen. "It's trying to communicate," he whispered. The others leaned closer. The signal repeated again and again, clearer each time, until finally they could read it. 3 words. Request. Human. Access. No one moved for a long moment. The researcher called command immediately. Within hours, the colony's entire security team was on alert. Ships were grounded, communication lines restricted. The message had reached Earth's command as well. The response from Earth was simple: do not engage. Observe only. The next morning, the object entered orbit around Epsilon Ridge. It wasn't a meteor. It wasn't even a ship anyone recognized. It looked old, like a piece of something broken off long ago, floating with purpose. It carried the same alloy signature as Orpheus 9. A shiver went through everyone who heard that name. The object sent one more message: deliver memory. Human command hesitated. Some believed it was a warning, others thought it was a call for help. After a long debate, a small vessel was sent up from the colony, unarmed, cautious, carrying a team of scientists and engineers. Their mission was to investigate without disturbing whatever it was. When they reached the object, they saw markings on its surface, scars, symbols, and faint letters that had almost faded away. It wasn't a random piece. It was part of the dreadnought's hull. One of the engineers touched the side of the fragment. It was warm, almost alive. And when he did, the ship's sensors suddenly came to life. A faint light ran through the broken metal, and a small sphere detached from it, floating gently toward them. It stopped in front of the main viewing window. Then it spoke in a calm voice. Mission incomplete. Human data required. The crew froze. The voice sounded human, but not quite. It felt like a recording, one mixed with something that wasn't human at all. They brought the sphere back carefully to the colony's lab for study. The scientists worked day and night trying to understand what it wanted. The more they studied it, the more it adapted, almost as if it was learning again how to talk to humans. Soon it began to share pieces of information, images, voices, memories. It showed them flashes of the original Orpheus 9 mission, the crew, the battles, the silence after the attack. It showed how the ship had changed, how it had merged with something ancient and powerful, something that existed long before humans traveled among the stars. The sphere explained that when the Orpheus 9 was attacked and nearly destroyed, it encountered an energy field not understood by science. It wasn't just energy, it was a form of intelligence, older than time. It didn't destroy the ship. Instead, it fused with it, preserving the crew in another form, turning the dreadnought into a living being made of memory and machine. The humans who were once aboard didn't die. Their minds lived within the ship's system, guiding it, protecting humanity even after their physical forms were gone. The scientists on Epsilon Ridge listened in silence. It was both beautiful and terrifying. One of them asked, "Why did you come back now?" The sphere pulsed with light, and the voice answered, "To warn. The silence is ending." That sentence spread fear faster than anything else. Earth's command demanded full reports. They wanted to know what the silence meant. But the sphere gave no clear answer. It only repeated that something was coming, something that had followed the Orpheus 9 into that ancient energy field. and had been watching ever since. Days turned into weeks. The colony grew restless. Ships were told not to leave orbit. Every satellite was pointed toward deep space, scanning for any signs. But the skies remained quiet. Then, one night, all communication across the colony went dark for exactly 7 minutes. When it came back online, a strange new signal appeared in the system logs. It wasn't from the sphere and it wasn't from Earth. It came from far, far beyond known space. Its message was simple: "We have found you." The next morning, the sphere deactivated completely. No lights. No voice. Just silence. The scientists tried everything, but it remained lifeless. It was as if it had finished its mission, or perhaps gone into hiding. Earth Command went into full alert. Drones were launched into deep space to track the origin of the signal. They found traces of movement, huge energy spikes, fleets gathering in regions never mapped before. Whatever was coming, it wasn't small. Human colonies across several systems began to prepare quietly. Ships were moved to safer zones. Communication networks hardened. Yet Earth refused to panic. Humanity had learned long ago that fear was their greatest weakness. A message was sent across all human frequencies, a simple reminder of who they were. Stay calm. Stay human. We have faced darkness before. The Epsilon Ridge. The scientists still kept the sphere locked in a transparent chamber. Sometimes they thought they saw faint flickers inside it like heartbeat pulses, but nothing more. It remained silent, until one morning, without warning, the lights in the lab flickered. The sphere lifted slowly into the air and projected a single image, a vast shadow moving through space. Its outline was impossible to measure. Around it, smaller shapes followed like an army. The voice returned, faint but clear. Contact imminent. Then the sphere split apart into tiny pieces that formed a single phrase in the air. Orpheus 9 returning. Those 2 words spread through every human communication channel like wildfire. The dreadnought that had vanished again was on its way back. For the first time in centuries, Earth's leaders sent out a universal call, not of war, but of unity. Every human fleet, every colony, every outpost received the same order: prepare to welcome the Guardian. People across the colonies stood outside at night, looking up at the stars. Some prayed, some simply waited in silence, remembering the stories they had heard as children about the ship that would always come when humanity needed it most. And as the darkness of space grew heavier, the faint light of a massive vessel began to appear on long-range sensors. It was coming fast, steady, calm, unstoppable. Its signal reached every human world at once. Human presence confirmed. Mission resumes. The stars trembled, the skies lit up, and whispers spread across the galaxy once again. The Phantom had returned, but this time, it wasn't just a legend, it was a promise. Because wherever humanity existed, the Orpheus 9 was never truly gone. It was part of them, born from their courage, their pain, their hope, and now it was awake again, ready to face whatever was coming from the darkness beyond the stars. The colony of Epsilon Ridge watched in awe as the giant ship entered orbit. It didn't speak. It didn't threaten. It simply waited, its dark hull shining under the twin suns, calm and powerful, like an ancient protector watching over its children. And somewhere deep inside that ship, the memories of the first crew stirred once more. They had not forgotten. They had only been waiting. And now their mission, whatever it truly was about to begin again. The return of Orpheus 9 changed everything. Every human world felt it. From the glowing towers of Earth to the small mining colonies hidden in far-off systems, the same message echoed again and again. Mission resumes. The words were calm, but they carried a weight that no one could ignore. Humanity didn't know exactly what was coming, but they all understood one thing. The Guardian had returned for a reason. Across the galaxy, other species felt the shift too. The Vreath Union, the same power that once doubted the old stories, now ordered a full retreat from human borders. Trade ships rerouted, Patrols vanished, and diplomats who once spoke proudly about putting humans in their place suddenly went silent. But silence wasn't peace. It was fear. In the deep void beyond known space, something vast was moving. The same darkness the sphere had warned about, the one that followed Orpheus 9 from the unknown energy field, was finally approaching. Its presence could be felt in every transmission, every flicker of static, every faint signal lost mid-broadcast. It was not a fleet, not a species, not something that could be reasoned with. It was a presence, a living wave of intelligence, spreading like a storm across the stars, erasing everything it touched. The Terran command on Earth called it the Silence. Every attempt to communicate with it failed. Every probe sent toward it vanished. It didn't answer, it didn't threaten, it simply moved forward, absorbing signals, consuming light, turning everything around it into a quiet, empty void. And in that growing darkness, one signal remained untouched: Orpheus 9. The dreadnought stood between the Silence and humanity, its dark hull glowing faintly against the endless black. For days it didn't move. It simply floated there, like a guardian standing at a door. People across Earth watched the news screens in silence. No one spoke of fear anymore. There was only awe. From his office aboard the Mars command station, the Terran commander watched the ship's signal. "It's waiting," he said softly. "It knows what's coming." Another officer turned to him. "Do you think it can stop it?" The commander didn't answer. He just stared at the screen where the outline of the dreadnought pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. "I don't know," he whispered. "But if anything can, it's that ship." Then, on the third day, Orpheus 9 sent one final message. It was broadcast to every human frequency, translated instantly into every known language. "Humanity, stay together. Do not follow. Mission ends today." The signal ended. Before anyone could respond, the dreadnought moved. Slowly at first, then faster, cutting through the stars toward the dark horizon where the Silence waited. All human scanners focused on that point. Across colonies, people gathered around screens, watching in complete silence. Children sat beside their parents, soldiers stood in formation, miners stopped their work. Every eye was on the sky. And then, for the first time, the galaxy saw what the humans had created long ago. The dreadnought's surface opened like unfolding wings. Energy rippled across its body, bright and white, not like any known weapon. It wasn't attacking, it was awakening. The light grew stronger, until even the ships near Mars had to shield their sensors. When the light faded, Orpheus 9 was gone. In its place, a single wave of energy spread outward across the void, silent, clean, and endless. It reached the edge of the Silence and met it head-on. No explosions, no sound, no battle. Just two forces colliding in complete stillness. For hours, the sensors showed nothing but white interference. Then slowly, the readings began to return. The dark field that had been spreading for months was gone. The stars behind it shone clearly once more, and in the middle of that empty space nothing remained. No dreadnought, no darkness, only silence, the kind that felt peaceful this time, not fearful. On Earth no one celebrated. They didn't cheer or shout. They just stood quietly, understanding that something great had ended and something greater had been protected. Days later, a small signal appeared again, faint and broken, traveling through the void. It wasn't from Earth and it wasn't from any ship. The message repeated every few seconds, distorted but clear enough to read. Mission complete. Humanity secure. After that, the signal faded completely. For months, humanity searched for any trace of Orpheus 9. Drones scouted every sector. Probes followed the trail of the energy wave. But nothing was found. Not a piece of metal, not a scrap of debris, nothing. It was as if the ship had never existed. And yet something was different. Wherever human ships traveled now, they found small traces of energy, tiny glowing particles that seemed to follow them, harmless but constant. Scientists couldn't explain it. The readings matched no known element, but they all carried the same frequency once used by Orpheus 9. It was as if the ship had left a piece of itself behind, scattered across the galaxy like dust. Soon, those particles became known as Orpheus light. Every new ship launched carried a small amount of it inside its systems, not as a weapon but as a reminder, a symbol of protection and unity. Years later, when new explorers reached the far edges of the galaxy, they sometimes reported strange phenomena, glowing shapes drifting through space, a whisper over the radio, or a sudden feeling of warmth just before danger passed. The records always ended the same way. Guidance received. Safe again. And across the alien worlds, the legend spread faster than ever. No one dared challenge humanity anymore, not because of their armies or their weapons, but because of what they represented. A species that could turn tragedy into strength, that could send one ship into the unknown and have it return as something beyond comprehension. Even the most powerful alien empires began to treat Earth differently. They didn't see it as weak or small anymore. They saw it as something to respect, maybe even to fear, but in a way that came with admiration, not hatred. A new era began across the galaxy. Trade replaced war. Treaties replaced threats. And at the heart of it all was the quiet legend of Orpheus 9, the ship that never surrendered, the ship that became more than human. Generations passed, but the story never faded. Children learned it in schools. Artists painted it across city walls. Pilots carried small pendants shaped like the dreadnought as good luck charms. And every once in a while, when a ship traveled too far into the dark, the crew would see something in the distance, a flicker of light, a shadow with wings of metal drifting through the stars. It never spoke. It never came closer. But the message was always clear. You are not alone. Back on Earth, a monument stood in the middle of the Pacific. Half ship, half sculpture, made from the same alloy once used in Orpheus 9. On it were engraved words that every traveler knew by heart. Do not fear the dark. We remember who we are. And though no one had seen the dreadnought again, people still felt it was out there, somewhere beyond the edge of space, still watching, still protecting. Maybe it had become part of the universe itself. Maybe it was the reason ships found their way home through storms. Maybe it was the reason no alien dared cross human borders again. Whatever the truth, the message it left behind became part of human identity. Never forget. Never surrender. Never release those who threaten peace. In the quiet of the night sky, as the stars shimmered above, a soft pulse sometimes appeared among them, 3 short flashes repeating every few seconds. Scientists said it was nothing more than a distant pulsar, but everyone else knew better. It was Orpheus 9, keeping watch, not as a weapon, not as a ghost, but as a promise. A promise that if darkness ever returned, humanity would never face it alone again, because somewhere out there, the ship that defied the galaxy still waited. Silent, unseen, eternal. And for those who understood the message hidden in its silence, it was clear what it meant. The humans remember.